So how was Europe?
It was wonderful. We had a blast. The weather was nice. People were nice. There was no weirdos about. Got to see lots of things.
So you didn't get stabbed while you were in Stab Central?
I did not, magically.
So speaking of nice and not nice people, I made a really spicy video about the new Zelda game,
No.
and a lot of people didn't like it. I had to actually delete some comments because of some slurs.
Oh, rude.
I know, right?
One thing to not like it and to disagree, but you don't have to be mean about it.
I was only mean to Nintendo because I'm like, how did this game take you almost 7 years? And it's like this. We're talking about a game that's 99% of it is. You know what it means when a video game reuses assets, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about a game that is like 99% reused assets, and they're not even reused in like a constructive way. Like for example, you know the game Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time?
Uh-huh.
Have you heard of the game Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask?
I feel like I have in passing, but
It's a sequel to Ocarina of Time, and it
oh,
reuses
okay.
it reuses basically all the assets,
Mm-hmm.
but it does so in such a way that you cannot tell. The land of Termina and the land of Hyrule are so distinct and different that if it wasn't the same art style, you would not be able to tell. Like if it was
Oh.
adjust the graphical fidelity slightly, and it's two different games.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, if you play, it's called Tears of the Kingdom. If you play Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom,
You can see that it's
right
the
after
same.
right after Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild,
Uh-huh.
it's like that meme from The Office. Corporate needs you to find a difference between these pictures. They're the same picture. They've shoved it into a like an AI randomizer,
Mm-hmm.
and then like added a couple like sky islands, and that's about it.
Oh. Ooh.
And I'm just like, I got 7 hours into the game, and I'm already back at the base map from Breath of the Wild.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, oh, okay, so this is more of the same, right? Except it's not. They took out. It's weird because they took out the fun stuff that I liked from Breath of the Wild, which was
Yeah.
in Breath of the Wild. This also plays into like really bad world building on the game's part, because in Breath of the
Mm-hmm.
Wild you find the remnants of this ninja society called the Sheikah, and
Uh-huh.
you need to go through and like revive all their technology to stand a chance against fighting the bad guy, right?
Yeah.
You go into Tears of the Kingdom, and it's like scorched earth. There's no Sheikah technology anywhere. And it's because they want you to be like all psyched about the Zonai, this new technology
Mm.
called the Zonai, which are like these weirdly effeminate bird people. I don't know why they did that. The Zonai technology, the Zonai vibes,
Yeah.
none of it is remotely similar to the Sheikah. So I'm like, why did you take one out just to replace it with the other one? Both
Even
of
though they're
them,
not
like,
equal. Yeah.
they're the motifs are completely different. You'd be able to tell them apart. But then I'm like,
Yeah.
then I realize as I'm playing the game, oh my god, all of the new techniques they gave you are just the old ones, but slightly tweaked. My main problem, back when they announced the sequel to this game, Breath of the Wild, my main problem, I was
Yeah.
like, weapon degradation is catastrophic to advancement. Like, I will need to pause my playthrough and run off the beaten path to go find, like, a small enemy camp or something, just so I can kill
Yeah.
a bunch of dudes and steal their weapons, because I won't have enough
Mm-hmm.
weapons to go into the next dungeon, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the weapon degradation is so bad, I'll have, like, 80% less weapons than when I left my cabin. So I'm like, I don't know why this is so bad, I don't know why they did it this way. And I'm like, okay, so in the next game, the sequel, just fix that and we're golden. That's how low my bar
Yeah.
was. And they're like, actually, we introduced this new system called Fusion, where you can fuse something to the end of your weapon. And if you choose not to do that because you like the way your weapon swings, or you're content with the weapon as it looks, too bad. We made the weapon degradation even worse, so now you're forced to use fusion. And I'm like, thanks, Nintendo, I hate it. So it's literally worse Breath of the Wild with less going on. So I don't know why, but because it's a Nintendo game, and because the title is The Legend of Zelda, it's getting 10s across the board, and it's going to be running against Final Fantasy 16 for Game of the Year. I hate it. I hate it. And insult to injury, it runs like abject trash. My Nintendo Switch is literally sweating to run this game.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is. And if there's more than 3 or 4 enemies on screen, my Switch has a seizure. If it was a Bayonetta 3 thing, where because Bayonetta 3 took 8 years, there's a lot of stuff there. There's a lot of stuff there. It's just all bad stuff.
Yeah.
That's the content is unsatisfactory and the story is garbage, but there's stuff there in Bayonetta 3, is my point. The stuff here is bad. There's nothing going on. And what little story there is really, really bad. Breath of the Wild, I got really invested in the Guardians. These characters are called the Guardians, right? You got Daruk, the big fat Goron. You've got Urbosa, the tall, hot desert queen. And then you've got Revali. He's just a bird man, and he's a douche, and that's really the whole shtick with him. And then you've got Mipha, the fish girl, whose whole shtick is she is very horny for Link. I don't know how that works, but whatever. So, anyways, it's cool because when you play the temples, or they're called the divine beasts in that game, when you play them, what you find out through the lore, because Link starts the game with amnesia. You find out through the lore, you've already lost. The reason that the Breath of the Wild map is a barren wasteland is because Ganondorf won 100 years ago and wiped out everything. That's why everything is flat and barren and everything's in ruins. And then when you get to the Divine Beasts, you encounter these awesome characters as ghosts. They're like, once you lost, everything kind of died. That's basically what they're saying. So I'm like, oh man. And I really like them. And yet, we're here and there's no mention of them, and there's no talking about them. And here's the thing, I get it, they're ghosts who are tied to the Divine Beasts. The Divine Beasts aren't in Tears of the Kingdom yet, from what I can see. But where are their descendants? That's my question. Because you meet Urbosa's grandchild, named Riju. You meet Revali's great-great-great-great-great-grandson, because he's a bird, so their lifespan is short as hell. So you meet his quadruple great grandson Teba. You meet Daruk's grandkid Yonobu, and then you meet Mipha's little brother, because the fish people live incredibly long. So you meet her little brother Sidon, who is he's built like a basketball player now because it's been 100 years, and it's really satisfying to see him all strong now. But so to my knowledge, you don't even see them in the sequel, which the sequel takes place only a couple of years after the first one. So I'm like, what happened, Nintendo?
Yeah. You're like, wait, where's the rest of the story here?
The most optimistic comment I got on that video was someone saying that they feel like they agree that this game doesn't feel like it was 6 years in development. They think that there's a secret Zelda game on the back burner that's actually the next one in the saga. But I'm like,
oh, and they just put this out as a temporary, here's something new, but not quite new until we have the big thing next.
Your guess is a few years in the Odin sleep at Zilla? Okay, but that doesn't explain. Where's Gerudo Town? Where is my desert kingdom that is all 7-foot-tall black women? Nintendo, what did you do with it? So there's a whole side quest in the game where you need to find, like, female clothes and dress Link up as a woman and walk through the front gate. And it's
amazing.
It's funny at first, but it's actually very anxiety-filling as you make your way into the town, because you're like, literally everyone here can just, like, immediately kill you. Because they're all, like, these, like, 7-foot-tall, jacked women with, like, Arabian weaponry. So you're just like, oh, this is much less arousing and much more terrifying than I thought it would be. That video has a lot of views, a lot of dislikes, and a lot of very angry comments. I played the ending of Breath of the Wild, and I can see why that is what's panned by so many people. Because the ending, you don't really fight a final boss, you just kind of fight a giant angry monster that kind of goes down really easy. The ending of the game is, like, very abrupt. So I'm like... My theory is that Tears of the Kingdom started out as an expansion where you meet legit Ganondorf, get a bonus level, and some new mechanics, and then go have a proper final boss. Technically, you fight Ganondorf's dark magic cumsock. That's what it amounts to when you realize what you're fighting. 6+ years of development, and it still performs like Monolith Soft's equivalent of Cyberpunk 2077. I've played all the Xenoblade games on the Switch. Bigger games, more mechanically in-depth games, none of which have these problems. I fought 15+ enemies at a time in Xenoblade Chronicles 3 the day it dropped with no updates. Because, side note, level grinding in Xenoblade games is the most fun you will ever have. And the frame rate of my docked Switch didn't dip as hard as it does if 5+ other characters other than Link curse me by crossing my screen when I'm playing this game undocked. It ain't Monolith Soft's fault. They're better than this. Someone at Nintendo did something. It's Bayonetta 3 all over again. I am playing the other 2 Zelda games on the Switch that I have. I finished Breath of the Wild, like I said, and then I have Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, which is like a spin-off. You ever see those games, the Warriors games, where they it's
I've
like
seen them. I've never played them or anything like that.
It's the game series where you're a character with wide-ranged fat hitbox attacks, and then you're surrounded by a bunch of weak enemies. So you just, like, beat up a bunch of hordes of enemies. But yeah, the Age of Calamity one is essentially that, but for Zelda. And it struggles. My Switch struggles to do it because they're doing that style of gameplay, but they're doing it in the cel-shaded graphics of Breath of the Wild. So it's really, really detailed. So you end up with, like, 100 enemy units that are really, really detailed, all on screen at the same time, and I'm like, oh, my Switch is melting, oh no. So what you been playing these days, Joe?
Here's the Kingdom.
Oh. Hey, how far in the game are you? How far in the game are you?
Honestly, I haven't done any story stuff. I've just been doing shrines and opening up the entire map, basically, with all the towers.
I got like a side quest spoiler. Apparently, Impa is off like studying.
I got that.
Impa's off like Impa's off like studying the geography, and I'm like, hey, ma'am, instead of studying rock formations, how about you get some info on where your culture went? Because the Sheikah stuff is just gone. It's just gone. No explanation, no lore, and no one notices or cares. What happened?
From what I've experienced, I have yet to see or hear anything from that recalls back to Breath of the Wild.
Please, Nintendo, I spent hundreds of hours restoring Sheikah civilization. It'd be nice to know where it went. Please. Edzilla in the chat says, I swear, if the explanation is the reawakening of Ganon just destroyed all the Sheikah tech, ... Yep. It's probably gonna be something just like that. Like Impa's probably gonna say, like, some throwaway line, like, oh, The tech all just went kapoof. And then Ganon was like, I put away all the Sheikah tech.
Yeah, I would see that happen.
Remember when Legend of Zelda used to be well written? I do. When I called Tears of the Kingdom an asset flip, everyone tried to cite Majora's Mask as another asset flip. I'm like, are you forgetting that it's like unrecognizable from the game before it? In every way except art style? Like, if it wasn't for the art style, you would not know it's a sequel.
We haven't had a direct Zelda sequel since Ocarina. A direct 3D Zelda sequel. Let me rephrase. Direct 3D Zelda sequel since Ocarina. Because we've had Spirit Tracks and Phantom Hourglass, but 3D Zelda.
Those don't count as 3D?
No, they're still 2D. Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks, those are top-down.
Yeah, but I thought you could have like 3D polygon graphics at that angle.
Would you count Link's Awakening as 3D?
The new one?
Yeah.
Graphically, yeah. 3D as in 3-dimensional, not third person.
I think it's 2D. The top down still, up down left right.
I would say top down is the perspective, 3D is the animation. That's how like I would label it. As the most optimistic comment in my comment section on my Zelda early review is, I loved the game, but there's no way it took them 6 years to make this. I'm sure there's an unannounced Zelda game much closer than we think. I don't think so. Fuse is only there to proliferate combat, though. Think about it, because they just made
exactly.
all they did was make combat worse, so that way you have to do it.
Alright, I loved Age of Calamity. I loved the Warriors game.
I am very disappointed that it was not actually the violent, gritty, grim prequel that we were promised, and instead it's an alternate timeline. I hate that.
I agree.
I hate that. I want it, as much as I adore Urbosa and want her to stomp my... As much as I adore Urbosa and want her to stomp me into paste, it would have been so cool to see her get decapitated by Thunderblight Ganon.
Something like that, yeah. I wanted to see like them fail.
No, there's no something like that, bro. That's what was going to happen until Reiju showed up.
That's true. I wanted to see them fail. I wanted that sadness, and then to me to be like, you know what? That winning in Breath of the Wild was very much worth it.
I wanted it to be like Star Wars Episode 3, you know? I wanted them to get Order 66'd by the Ganons. I wanted Fireblight Ganon to cook Daruk alive. I wanted Revali to get his smug ass blasted out of the sky. I wanted Mipha. Well, Mipha's innocent, but watching her get splattered by Waterblight Ganon would have been kind of funny.
Hey, you leave Mipha out of this.
Oh no!
Yeah, that's one fine-looking vehicle. Why doesn't mine look like that?